Okay. Good morning. My name is David Merriman. I'm going to call to order the Cuyahoga County Equity Commission meeting for November 17th, 2022. Begin with a roll call. To my left, representing Department of Development. I could ask you to just introduce yourself and say your role.
Vaughn Johnson, Deputy Director for Department of Development.
Representing Justice Services.
Jill Smilek, Deputy Director of Public Safety and Justice Services.
Representing HR. I am the Director of Health and Human Services. And then to my right, representing Equity and Inclusion.
Lenora Lockett.
Wonderful. We have a quorum. So we'll start with a review of the minutes. The minutes were posted on the website, and so they've been available for comment. Are there any comments or edits? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
First, second.
Oh, sorry. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
Yes, I'll make a motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
Moved by Vaughn, seconded by Jill. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? The minutes are approved. There is no one here from the public today. I don't believe we have any public comment that's been submitted to us electronically. So we're going to begin with opening remarks. I'll turn to my left. I'll ask Vaughn to kick us off.
Sure, thank you. So since the last time we met, we've been really busy in development. I'm really excited to share several things that we've been working on. One, of course, I think all of us are aware of the county's commitment to the Central Neighborhood with the Central Serve Initiative. And the Department of Development has been working with the Central Surge Committee, and we had our first actual business networking event back on, I think it was October 30th or 31st, somewhere back there. It was very well attended. It was on a Saturday. I was there, and I had a chance to meet with a number of minority and women-owned businesses and talk to them about how the county supports their efforts with some of the initiatives that we have, and also through our capital partners for the services that the county does not offer. So I was really encouraged by that. Also, there's a panel discussion with City Councilman Starr and the president of Next Gen Construction, Shakori Davis, and he has just an amazing life story. But Shakori Davis is from the Central Neighborhood, and he has the second largest minority-owned construction company in the state of Ohio.
Wow.
And he's right from that neighborhood. So that was a great conversation of his story. So like I said, we did that. And that was just the first event. We're going to be doing a series of events in the Central Neighborhood. The other thing that I've been doing is working with our municipalities as they helping them create minority business roundtable events. I've done this with a number of inner ring suburbs. Most recently in Richmond Heights. I have one coming up in Parma Heights, and I just did one in Cleveland Heights as well. Again, where I'm talking to these minority and women-owned businesses about what the county does, how we can help them, how we can support them, some initiatives that we already have, and the products and services that we don't offer, how we support our capital partners to deliver those products and services. And the next one is the county stimulus grant. So I'm really excited after months and months of work that next week on the 22nd, the awardees will be announced for the grant. So we're really excited about that. There was if you remember, we've been working on this since March of this year, and there were 12 other organizations that we all know that were a part of this, and the committee has made their selections. They're undergoing some final selections on that, and it will be announced next week. So we're excited about that. And then here's one that was kind of flying under the radar that some folks may not know about. There's an organization called the Business Growth Collaborative. It is a consortium of organizations that support small and minority-owned businesses, and some of their members are organizations like Jumpstart, Cleveland Neighborhood Progress, ECDI, President's Council, and so on. And finally, the county Skill Up unit actually has a seat at the table, and we're now part of the Business Growth Collaborative. And then what we do once a month is businesses that are looking for funding or technical assistance or whatever, they do like a Shark Tank kind of a pitch to the members of this group. And, we get to talk to them about that. And then we also get referrals from those small businesses, maybe that don't get awarded a grant or a forgivable loan from the BGC, and then we help them with Skill Up. The other thing we've been doing with Skill Up is I have access to lists of, it's actually public information from the State of Ohio's website. So, you know, our Skill Up talent advisors, they make outbound calls to businesses all day long, promoting and positioning Skill Up. Well, one of the things that I added to that is I pulled the list of certified minority businesses from the State of Ohio's website and had them specifically calling those businesses and sharing how Skill Up could help their businesses grow. So we have a number of new businesses that are minority owned. They're smaller businesses, but still minority owned, that are being onboarded onto the Skill Up platform. So I was really happy about that. And I think that is what we've been up to the last few months since I've seen you guys last. Thank you.
Sounds great. Any questions for Vaughn? All right, Jill?
Sure, good morning. Public Safety and Justice Services, we continue to meet with our internal DEI committee. We met actually just on Monday morning and really debriefed a bit on the DEI town halls and the lessons learned and employee reaction to those 3 sessions. And the folks who are on that committee really came with a lot of good ideas about how to sort of piggyback on the DEI town halls and sort of personalize them to public safety and justice services by creating almost like affinity groups so that employees have a place, a safe space where they can come together and discuss, you know, kind of engage in ongoing discussion about those topic areas, which I think is really a positive step forward for us. We also are looking at our hiring practices. So as positions come up and we're working with the PRC, we're really looking at those equivalencies. So we're not necessarily taking down any qualifications, but if our manager position requires a master's degree, what else can we do for that? Can we do a bachelor's degree with a certain amount of experience so that somebody who maybe didn't have the means or the opportunity to advance in their education but still has wonderful experience can still be a part of some of those higher level positions. So as those come up, we are committed to working with the PRC to make sure that we are doing everything that we can to open up those opportunities to more people. So that's kind of where we're focused for now. We're still continuing to learn from HHS and the work that Sabrina Roberts and David's group has done, and I think we'll continue to see some additional activity throughout 2023. Thank you.
Good morning, Sheba Marshall, and representing Human Resources, and I'm excited to say we were very excited about the Central Surge project and how well it's going. It means employees and applicants for, of course, the county. So we're looking forward to working in a partnership with that. Our recruiting efforts are going, I think, swimmingly right now. My manager this morning was excited to say that at the event that we held yesterday, that she was able to make an offer to fill all of the positions that they need right now in one of our departments, and she's standing and very excited about how our recruitment efforts, how we're thinking outside the box and doing different events different ways, how they're starting to really work and to pay off. And the excitement that we see, of course, across the applicant space, walking away from an entire event knowing that they possibly have a job once they meet some background criteria that, you know, we're required to do, but they were able to pass their tests, do their interviews and all things last night, and they were very excited about that. So just looking at more ways to outreach into our communities to do our recruitment. We're happy about that. I was contacted again by our contact at College Now, so I'm looking forward to this upcoming year recruiting more mentors for the program. You know, our College Now program has an outreach piece that they reach out to communities that are marginalized, maybe not have as much access to how to do college. And so she reached out, I don't want to mispronounce her name, she reached out to me yesterday, and I responded, I'm very excited about getting started again on how to do that and what we can do to get more mentors from Cuyahoga County. We're still working on our DEI for Human Resources. We're still doing our newsletter once every bi-monthly. We're doing our newsletter, and we're keeping our employees engaged on our DEI efforts. And we're looking forward to developing a program more robust next year, one that includes activities and events and things like that. But we're also, I'm happy to hear you say you're already doing it, because we're already working with the PRC to look at what it takes to really do a job, to really have a job and still really receive a nice income for that job. And it doesn't always require a 4-year degree or, 2,700 years of experience in something. So we're looking at that as well with the PRC to see what we can do to begin changing that dynamic so that no matter who you are, what level of education you may have, if you're able to do the job, you're considered. So those are some of the things that we're working on in human resources.
Great. So for HHS, I want to call out a couple grants we recently received. Melissa Sirak in the Office of Homeless Services just got a major grant from HUD to kick off a planning process to have a framework to end homelessness within youth. So that's a competitive grant that Homeless Services has tried to apply for or has applied for years, but not successfully been awarded. And they got it this year, so it's going to be a lot of work. And I think there is, with this as well as the next grant I'll talk about, there's a lot of disproportionality. There is an overrepresentation of minorities in the homeless population. And I think the lens that they're going to look at is engaging youth to be a part of the planning process to create the strategies that will ultimately address homelessness within the youth population. So I'm very excited and just honor the great work that Melissa and her team have led. Similarly, Simeon Best in the Office of Reentry just got a performance-based contracting or pay for success grant out of the federal government where they're going to be focusing on doing employment services with reentering citizens. Again, these are, there is disproportionality. There are many, there's an overrepresentation of minorities within the both client populations. So although these are not REI, DEI focused grants, I think they will largely accomplish the purpose of their department's desire to address disparities. We had a good presentation a couple weeks ago. DHHS leadership was at the CASE, the Citizens Advisory Council on Equity. We've gone through a great deal of transition. We have many new staff that are in leadership positions, and we came forward to share our overview of who is working in which areas and how things are going. I hope to continue that, and as we all manage the transition, I imagine we'll also need to save time just to do some recognition of who's working in which areas, because the roles are changing. Lastly, I want to just briefly touch on the Crucial Conversation series that Sabrina Roberts has led, and this is a conversation where our diversity advisory group has been doing regular meetings, open meetings, staff forums that include themes and content on diversity and equity. I have to say, in the most recent one, Sabrina got a lot of very strong feedback, and there were some very direct questions for her about what the county is doing, and are we in fact investing in staff in the way that we need to. I think Sabrina did a great job representing the department and the county. But I want to take a second and just point out and acknowledge the work of Sheba Marshall and HR. Over the past 2 months, we've seen the transition of our starting wage at our social service worker series, where in essence the main position has gone from making $20.73 an hour entry wage to $26 an hour, and that position is the main position within DCFS that serves residents, and not only is it seen that huge increase in wage, there's been increases throughout the steps, and there have also been increases in the other positions within the series, and so the aides, the transportation worker, and the therapists, and then they've condensed the steps down to 5 steps instead of 9, including the entry point. And between that and the recent proposal by HR to County Council to do a salary adjustment has actually, I think, had one of the most positive effects of any recent legislation. And I just feel the need to acknowledge HR and Sheba's leadership on this, because our staff do some of the hardest work there is. Many of them are working 2 jobs to make ends meet. And you know, if you're working a second job because you can't make ends meet because of your salary, you're taking on that much more stress. You're not decompressing. You're spreading yourself thin. I want to just say that I think these these policy decisions to change wages and to make these adjustments are an investment in our staff. That staff is the workforce that serves our residents, serves our communities, and addresses the social problems that we're all struggling with. And I'm just very grateful for the administration's leadership in making those adjustments and for Sheba's leadership to bring it across the finish line.
Thank you.
Lenore?
Thank you, David. I'll just reserve, most of my updates are related to the topics on the agenda.
Okay, if there are any questions for each other, we'll hear them now. We're going to move on the agenda then. So we're going to move to updates on the diversity, equity, and inclusion training. Lenora?
Okay. Again, Lenora Lockett, thank you for this opportunity just to give an update on one of our significant projects that we undertook as a county this year. It was the diversity, equity, and inclusion training. I just wanted to, we've been providing updates as we go on, so I'm going to provide just a summary. First, that the last of the 21 town hall sessions will be today from 1 to 3 p.m. That has been a significant undertaking. That was, the town halls were a three-part series of trainings for all staff, and it was included the virtual component for those employees that have county-issued laptops and PCs, and also the in-person component for those who do not, as provided as hosted at the Harvard Road facility. The town halls to date, the attendance has been increasing with each one, so that leads to momentum. Usually the momentum ebbs toward the end, but it's been increasing. So the first town hall, we had at more than 2,600. The second town hall, we had more than 2,800. And based on registrations information today, we don't have the actual final attendance. We're possibly going to reach 3,000 for Town Hall 3. The management sessions, which we have been completed, were done in the summer. There were 2 sessions. It was a cohort style to try to provide familiarity so there would be more comfort as you progress through the training from session 1 to session 2, with a 3 to 4 week gap to provide the managers to do their implicit bias test, the Harvard implicit bias test, and also the project plan. For that one, we had, for management session 1, 626 participants, and for management session 2, 592. In addition, there have been components related to executive coaching for 5 subsets of groups, and we've also had the lead up for each town hall. There was a DEI Champions virtual session to provide support to leadership on what the topics were going to be on the upcoming town hall, so that they can be a support and also resource to their staff as they dealt with their responses and or questions from each of those town halls. So the success of the project, it was already envisioned by a lot of county staff. The project team included representation from DEI, the Department of HR, and Clerk of Courts as the liaison for the Citizens Advisory Council of Equity. Obviously, everyone here is leadership. Dealing with your short staff, you still made the commitment for encouraging and championing your staff to attend these trainings, and that was a significant impact on workload when you're already dealing with a short staff. So again, the success of the overall, again, it's the foundation, so we're hoping that there'll be actions and strengthening of abilities for us to implement racial equity tools and implement a positive impact on equity in our cultures. But the solidity of the foundation is based on all of us supporting and championing the effort. So it's a hooray and a thank you also.
Great. Other questions for Lenora? I can tell you, I had a conversation yesterday with one of my departments that has a call center, and we were talking about periods where we've seen some surges in wait times, and he commented that there was actually there was an increase in wait times, and he asked the manager what happened, and the manager said, well, the majority of my team was doing their town hall at that time. And in some ways, it was kind of a recognition of the popularity of the town hall. Everybody was volunteering and excited to do it. I think there was also an acknowledgement of the cost. And, you know, and when those surges and wait times occur, we just have to manage them. And I think we're still learning on how to do that. It's a worthwhile investment for us to have our staff attend and to participate. Mine is today. I'm doing my last one today. I was really excited the last two because I was on with a lot of direct service staff that I otherwise don't get to have contact with and to be a part of conversation and chat and all that. So, but I also would say that it's sort of showing itself as present within our workforce because you see some other impact on performance, and that just really speaks to the kind of building interest that you've described. So excited to see how today goes. Unless there are other questions, we're going to move on. I think our next agenda item is the GEAR Race, Equity, and Employee Survey.
Thank you again. As you know, this is our second year of membership in the Government Alliance on Racial Equity. As part of that membership, there are several benefits. The first benefit is that this is one of those entity memberships that each member can have their own profile and log in and access to all the different resources in the site. The other benefit to that GEAR overall is that it also provides apples to what way we can do is a survey of our and assess our employees' understanding of our racial equity initiatives internally, their understanding in general individually on racial equity, and assess their knowledge and then their perception of their skill to implement those tools. And we can use that information to, if we repeat the surveys, to determine what strategies we need to implement, and also to see what our impact when we look back on any changes within from survey to survey, that progress that we've made. So this was our first year doing the GEAR survey, and again, it was a significant undertaking. GEAR has a requirement that they need at least 40% response in order for them to have a sample size enough for the entity. So it was a very big push to get, we worked with communications to develop a communication plan. And this is a survey that had over 50 questions. So as we know, we all individually get surveys. So to be able to go through and handle more than 50, it was 54 questions. And also it was anonymous and voluntary. So we wanted to make sure that employees felt comfortable submitting honest responses. Also, it needed, again, support from leadership for those employees to take the time to complete the survey so that we can have a sample size, the acceptable sample size, so we can have a significant, confidence on the baseline of where we're starting with the GEAR survey. And there was a 4-week survey period in the summer. We received the final report. We posted the final report on the county intranet. It was also as part of the In the Know communication that went out Monday. So again, survey employees can see, we asked for their input and we followed through, and they can get to see them the actual results. Again, it's building that trust and accountability, and also building that momentum that we're really trying to set the foundation, find out where we are as far as equity, and using that information to determine and implement strategies to make progress in all of the areas that the county has domain or influence. That's internally, externally, and as part of our services that we provide. So, and we had over 22,308 survey responses, and 2,115 met GEAR's completeness threshold. So those were the numbers that were used for the analyze for the record and findings. A couple of key points I would like to point out is that while the employees had experience with the tool, with racial equity, felt comfortable to various levels discussing, there was only 10%, like 11%, felt they had used the tool. So again, for strategy, we definitely want to get past we're setting the foundation for training and understanding. Now we need to put the actions into place. So we want to build our capacity on actually utilizing. And that was one of the things that was also part of the training. There were some tools that were provided in there as far as preferred language or person-centered language, things of that sort that we want to continue enforcing. That we've had the training set the foundation. Now let's get into the habit of implementing those within our actions and our how we do business at the county. Another significant for me point was that they wanted, one of the questions was about seeing concrete action. And that's where we kind of had less than 40% were aware of concrete actions that we had taken. So that gets back to what you were talking about, as how when you were talking about the actual entities under HHS is a large entity, what actually each area does and what you're implementing. It's important to try to find a way to do that outreach, not only internally, because if these are people that are working within their area and they have a 41% understanding, then that means the public from the outside will have a lesser understanding of how we're working to improve equity. So those are just a couple of the two major points that to proceed with action and also to make sure that we're doing that outreach and awareness so that people have an understanding of how we are doing. Our goal is to do our services, do our work in a more equitable fashion, and how we're making those changes.
The questions for Lenora on this point.
First, thank you. It was a great survey, and it was easy to do, easy to follow. The results came back, and I'm excited that they said they were honest. I think that's what I look forward to, is that they were honest. They really spoke to where the county really is right now today, and gave honest feedback. So I'm hoping that employees will actually go out and take the time to look at it, skim through it, you know, and see what's out there. But then take that information and go back to these town halls and say, what tools did I get to improve these numbers or answer these questions differently, or bring to the table my own information about what I have, what tool I gathered. You know, my favorite one was, I would say, a handicapped individual, as opposed to what's more considerate and kind, a person who's handicapped. Something as simple as that is a tool that I grabbed onto and probably live to use every single day, that I'm making sure I'm doing something that's more kind, considerate, and compassionate. And it represents diversity in thought. You know, and I'm hoping that our employees will take the good work that, you know, you've been leading and go back and grab some of those tools. Look at that survey and then grab some of those tools and use them. You know, they're not hard or difficult. Sometimes maybe reaching out to you and say, hey, where can I find, I'm having a situation, where can I find? And we're there to answer that question. Here's where you can look. Here's how you can help. Here's a different way to do it.
If I could just add, I don't really have a question, but I just want to make a comment. You know, there are many organizations that talk about DEI, especially after the whole George Floyd incident. There were lenders that were making financial commitments. There were organizations talking about they were going to look inside out and make changes. And now that started to taper off, many of those initiatives have been pushed to the back burner. Except for Cuyahoga County, under Lenora and other people's leadership, is really refreshing. And when I first heard about what was going on with DEI, it was extraordinarily ambitious to me. And I know there are thousands of hours that had to go into this to pull this off and to see it all the way through and then start to see the results and how it's changing people's attitudes and behaviors, including my own, and learning more about myself and who I actually am. I'm just really, really encouraged by that. I think it's just a huge feather in your cap, Lenora, for being able to see this all the way through, where many organizations, public and private, they stumbled out the gate and they never, ever completed it. So congratulations.
Thanks, and I appreciate the support and kindness, but as we know, it's all in. It's all in. So I do understand as an individual, it does help because it's hard each day, so I'm not saying that, but it's not me lifting it all up, but I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, well, I want to add my voice to the acknowledgements. Congratulations. I think we have a baseline. And, you know, I consider where we were a year ago, and we were talking about, you know, getting the survey going, having, you know, really getting staff to commit to this. There were a lot of questions. What would we get? Would people respond? Would they take the time? And we have a baseline now. We've completed it, we've gone a cycle, and that is something that we can build from. I've heard people ask questions, could we have done this or could we have done that? And I think, you know, for me, the best place to start is at the beginning. And I want to acknowledge you for getting us going, getting this up and having it running. I've heard that HHS was overrepresented in the survey response. And I know that may be in some ways the case because we're a majority of the staff of the county executives team. And, but I also would say we are the primary group that sees residents. And if we're not overrepresented, then we are the representatives of the county to the public, and we should be. And we should take pride in that, and we should make it a clear priority. But just really, really grateful that you've brought this home. You've got us moving on it, and I'm just really looking forward to seeing what comes next. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Any other questions on the survey? All right, I think our last regular item is the annual report, the annual equity report. Again, Lenora.
Okay, again, thank you again. So it's that time of year again where we basically provide a summary of what we've done in the county to advance equity and inclusion. And there's always that goal of having a balance between where we provide the details, provide the information, but also consider that we are a large agency and we want to make the balance, the length not, we want to make it reader friendly. And we also want to make it at the level where we're used, when I say level, we all have our acronyms, we all have our different areas of expertise, grant funds, this and that. But really what the public wants to know is how do I know what you've done is making an impact, or what are you doing? So that's what we're trying to do with our, we're working with communications, is trying to come up with a format for the equity report, for the annual report, where we can state to them, this is what my department does, this is what I did this year, and this is what we plan to do next year. And that's the whole story that we want to take. We want each department to have that opportunity to state in their terms, based on their mission, their funding, resources, how they're building equity into their required missions and tasks, what they've done this year and what they plan to do next year. So this is the first year that our goal is to have more than just the 5 pilots and the 1 board. We've had the past 2 years, reports have been done based on the pilots as a reinvigoration from the 2020 pandemic and social unrest with the George Floyd murder. So this is our first foray into a full annual equity report. So we'll see. The deadlines are, the preliminary deadlines are this Friday. However, again, any department that has a specific, they can come to me and tell me when they specifically feel they'll be able to meet the deadline. The goal is, because we are in the midst of a transition, is that this report, that although it's required to be issued in January of the following year based on the current year, so calendar year 2020 equities report on our actions in 2020 are not due to be published by county code until January of 2023. As you're aware, we will have a transition in leadership. As such, our goal was to make sure we had a sufficient final report ready in time for the current county executive to review, since it is the last year of work under his authority. And at the same time, that still really provides a cushion and time for the county executive-elect to also determine their review of the report. So it's a big step, because the goal is to have all departments, but it's also impacted by the timeline of the 2 shifts in county executive roles.
Are there any questions for Lenora?
As it relates to this timeline, is there some consideration to having sort of a final draft if you start to hear that people are concerned about not getting their information in. You know, now we all want to put on our best Sunday clothes to do this, and I don't want to give you a report, and I've been playing baseball all day Saturday, you know, so is there some consideration given to having our best foot forward before the end of the year, and then maybe still drafting a final for January?
So, again, Lenore, so the webinar was on the 9th. The first draft is due Friday, November 18th, tomorrow. Again, if there's certain dates in between, we have the holidays and things of that sort. That will be the time that DEI and Communications will review it, provide feedback. And then there's still time for another draft to be submitted December 7th. And then, obviously, there's that time in between where we have the communications, their graphics. It kind of polishes the report and also maybe has time to review with the county executive. So again, there's holidays, there's a lot of other things that come around this time of year. But yes, so there's a preliminary draft, which is the first best shot. And then you get some feedback and comments, and then there's the second draft, which is December 7th. And as you know, with the previous, because there's a pilot agency, you know, there's always those unofficial iterations in between.
Yes, I'm with Shiva on this. I know that my team is working on that preliminary draft, targeting tomorrow's deadline. I'm excited to just recognize that Sabrina Roberts, who's taken the leadership role as the interim assistant director to prepare that draft, is actually asked to join the transition advisory group. So Sabrina is now doing double duties, is maintaining some responsibilities as the assistant director, but also staff now to the transition advisory group. So I still need to confirm with her where we are with that report. I know she and the team were very focused on it over the past week. And, you know, Lenore, I know we've talked and said that if we need to kind of, you know, look for a little bit of an extension, we'll certainly come forward and ask for that. And at the end of the day, I know we'll all get it done. Everybody will get it done. Any other questions for Lenora on the equity report? All right. Lenora, anything else that you'd like to share on any of the above items? All right, then we're going to move to closing remarks. Since you have the mic, why don't you lead us off if you have any closing remarks?
Again, I would just like to express appreciation. A lot of the work this year it's always a team effort. You might have a face, and that does take responsibility and accountability there. But ultimately, any success is team effort. So I just want to say I appreciate everyone. It's not always easy to be on the team, and every task that's needed is not always the task that everyone wants to do. So I appreciate it.
Well said. Vaughn?
Sure, I just continue to be encouraged by the work that we do here, the accomplishments that we do. Like I said, when I first was a part of this group, it was some of the initiatives I thought were extraordinarily ambitious, and to see that we're wrapping this up, coming to the end of the year is extremely encouraging. I'm looking forward to continuing that. I also wanted to comment on something that Jill mentioned earlier about hiring and job descriptions, and seeing if there are other skills or experiences that a person can have in lieu of a traditional education. And I'm encouraged by that, because in the private sector, there are many large organizations, and if I'm not mistaken, I believe Ernst & Young is one of them, that in their job descriptions, it'll say bachelor's degree or equivalent if you have these other skills. And I'm encouraged that the county is starting to look at that as well, because as we know, there are many, many people out in the community that may have a non-traditional education, but they have the skills and experience to be able to do the job. So I was really encouraged to hear that. So I'm looking forward to hearing more about that as we go forward.
Thank you. I'm just really happy to be involved in this work in a different level. I'm newer at the deputy director level, and I've certainly taken a lot in, and I appreciate being here with this group of people. And if I could just plug for a second, you know, we talk a lot about our inward-facing efforts, but we have in public safety a number of outward-facing initiatives as well. So if I could just plug really quickly, tomorrow is the International White Ribbon Campaign, and the White Ribbon Campaign is meant to be like an offering of peace. And it used to be particularly geared towards men and boys or people who identify as male. However, it's certainly opened up to anyone who wants to take a pledge to stand against violence against women and intimate partner violence and violence against children, which we know disproportionately impacts people of color. So if anyone is interested in that, I can get you, I know David's staff is very involved with that. The fatherhood group is very involved with that, and our witness victim program is very involved as well. So there is an online pledge that's available that I can send to anybody who's interested, or you can show up to the county courthouse tomorrow afternoon at noon. It is an outdoor event, so it's going to be very cold. But there are a number of people who will stand there and who will take a pledge to stand against violence against women and violence against intimate partners and family members. So just a quick plug for that. Thank you.
I want to just reiterate that I too am excited about the work that's going on and the work that's being done, and even in the leadership role that HHS has already taken in the past. So I'm just happy to be a part of it, to hear it, to learn of all those good things that are happening with the county and outside. And I look forward to HR's role in continuing to move the needle forward as it relates to diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'm happy about that salary survey that we've completed. You know, the next thing possibly is maybe an equity study. Let's see where we can go with that. But we've got good groundwork, and I'm excited about that.
Well, that is great to hear. I think especially the equity study. We all know that there are many staff that have committed their entire professional career to this organization, and they are the face and the body of the county, and I think we have to keep track of how we're doing as we support them. I want to just take a minute and recognize, as we close this year, and as this is our last Equity Commission meeting for the year, we are also in the midst of a transition. We have a new county executive, Chris Ronayne, and as we prepare to see this transition occur, I for one have been thinking about, you know, all the time that we've spent over the past couple years on this work, but other projects, and how precious that time is. And as we see a new group come in that wants to lead the county, that we all find ways to support them. We all recognize the decisions they have made to step forward to be leaders and public servants. And I want to encourage all county offices and staff to find those opportunities to support the transition group and to support the new executive-elect. As this is a difficult job, this is complicated work, there is great levels, a great number of levels and bureaucracy, and yet at the same time, we're a great team. And we now have a new principal, or we will shortly, and it's our responsibility to support that person regardless. So I think as we close the year, I also hope everybody has a wonderful holiday season and get some time away, get some breaks, and that we all come back refreshed and ready to carry this work forward in 2023. So unless there are no other items for us to consider, I'd like to call for a motion to adjourn. A second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The meeting's adjourned. Thank you.